guys, here I am in Nevada. We're doing this as part of the Made in America series. We are surrounded by some of the greats: Newmont, Barrick, we've got Integra, Highcroft, and today we're going to speak to Scorpio Gold and find out why they think they can make it here. Let's go find out some more. Hey guys, we're here with Scorpio Gold at their Manhattan project, just taking a look around the property and trying to understand what the opportunity is here, and indeed what these guys are getting after. Teddy, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Well, thanks for making the time to see us here. It's great to be here in Nevada, and more specifically taking a look at what's going on. This is mining country.
Absolutely.
So here we got around us.
Yeah, so we're here at the Manhattan Project, right? This is a historic mining district. It's been around for about 100 years.
Yeah.
They've been working, you can see the historic undergrounds around us. Lots of historic underground workings all over this area. Lots of gold pulled out of the ground, dredge operations in the valley. And, you know, we've had a lot of small-time operators over the years that have kind of had little parcels here and there. And Scorpio has really been the one that's put it all together and really made a district scale project out of it.
That's kind of interesting, actually. With dredging, that's
yeah.
Looking at the surroundings, you wouldn't think that possible, but yeah, it did happen a while ago. Consolidation. You talk about consolidation. This has been owned by lots of different miners in the past. We've got open pit, which we'll talk about in a second. We've got underground workings as well. Why here? What are we looking at? What's the opportunity?
Yeah, so here at the Manhattan Project, it's a low-sulfidation epithermal gold deposit. There's lots of structurally controlled mineralization, generally along this trend that goes about 5 kilometers off to the Keystone Jumbo prospect. We've got quartz carbonate veins that are carrying the gold, generally speaking. Lots of breccia. Within our Ordovician seds, also the Cambrian sediments can carry the gold as well.
So if I look at some of the historic workings, that must come with a bunch of historic data as well, which kind of informed you guys at the start of the potential of what's going on here. How have you interpreted that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been many operators that have all kind of done their own work here. So we've got drill data from Kinross, Newmont, other operators that have all done different kind of things that we've got all the data. We've got the hard copies of it all. We've put it all digitized, pulled that together into 3D in a leapfrog model, and we're going through that now to do the interpretive work to kind of piece all that together, use the different terminologies from all these different companies and operators, and really make one cohesive model out of that, and try to understand the whole district as an entire thing rather than just little properties here and there.
Okay, and can we just take a look behind us and sort of understand what's going on? Because there's a giant pit right off there to my right. Yeah. That was worked in what, 80s and 90s?
Late 70s, early 80s was
right,
primary
okay.
when this pit was done, and there's also some more that you can't quite see behind the hill. So there's a handful of pits there. They were pulling grades 2.5, 3 grams on average, about a 3-to-1 strip ratio. I think they got 250,000 ounces somewhere in that neighborhood.
Right.
And so we're following up on that same trend. There's also the Gold Wedge underground in front of us here, all higher grades, 7-8 grams average, kind of in that neighborhood. And we're just piecing all this together because these were all owned and operated by different people at different times. And Scorpio's the first one that's really put it all together to have the full district scale opportunity in front of us here.
Fantastic. And so how many people are working on site at the moment?
Well, we've got a team of probably 6 geologists at a time working in the core shed, also some techs that are helping to cut the core and sample it and things like that. And then a handful of operations people that help with pad building and maintenance and those types of things. So we've probably got anywhere from 6 to 8, maybe up to 10 people at a time.
Right.
And we work a two-week rotation, so we're kind of swapping in and out with.
And this is a all year round operation as well.
That's right. We're 365 days a year. Maybe a little less than that if we take a Christmas holiday or whatever. But other than that, we're here all the time. The drillers are operating 24 hours a day. Got 3 drills spinning right now, and that seems to be going through the end of the year at least.
Right, okay. And the geologists, obviously you're talking about this sort of following this sort of trend up through the valley here. You got a neighbour just up the road doing great things.
Yeah.
Is there what are the kind of comparisons to what they're doing?
So just about 15 kilometers to the north of here is Round Mountain. Obviously a world-class deposit. They pulled a lot of gold out of the ground. They're still going. And they're on the kind of other side of the caldera that we're sitting on the margin of right here. The Manhattan caldera is all volcanics here, and that continues up to the north, all the way to Round Mountain, in which they're mining the same rocks that we are pretty much.
Right. And obviously, I know Nevada as a kind of, on average, 0.6 grams per ton type of operation. You've seen potential for maybe a little bit more than that. Some of the results recently show that you're finding it, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've seen several different drill holes that have hit very high grades. Recently, we had 400 plus gram intercept. Right behind us here is the Black Mammoth.
Right.
We drilled a hole here that we just released a week or two ago. It was 62 meters at 0.6. Overall, our current resource has an average grade of 1.26 grams per ton, which puts it in the top tier of, oxide gold deposits in all of Nevada.
And now you're talking about underground and old underground workings. In fact, we're looking at them now. They've seen better times.
Yeah.
They've seen better times. But they were here for quite some time getting after this.
Absolutely.
So what were they pulling out?
They were pulling out, there must have been visible gold, high grade gold that was very profitable for them. They were mining this stuff for decades, beginning in the 1900s.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing now. 400 or a gram per ton.
Yeah.
Intercepts. That was pretty good. That must have been what they were hitting back then.
Pretty good.
We don't have very good production data for a lot of these kind of more historic operations.
Yeah.
But they weren't digging these holes for fun. They were finding a lot of gold. That's for sure.
But I mean, talking of data, just down here, you're pointing out just before we started filming, the sort of remnants of an old development plate. There's a lot of work done, not a lot of gold pulled out. What was happening there?
Yeah, so that's the Gold Wedge underground here. That was operational in the 90s, and so they did a lot of the development work to get underground. They'd have a lot of all the drifting to get down to the gold. Didn't really mine a whole lot of the actual deposit itself, so that's still sitting in the ground waiting for us. And we're hoping to exploit that, maybe do some drilling from underground. But even if that doesn't happen, it's already well drilled there. It's in the resource right now. Currently at an inferred category, but we're confident we can upgrade that.
Right, because it seems like a lot of opportunity on different fronts. In terms of a long strike, you've got this high-grade underground old workings here to get. I know you've been drilling from underground as well, have you?
We have not drilled underground. No, it's all been surface drilling.
Right. Okay, but have you got that data?
The underground drilling? Yeah, we do for the Gold Wedge underground.
Not here. This
stuff is older. They weren't doing any drilling here.
Got it. Okay. So we've got open pit, we've got underground, we've got a massive consolidated land package. How are you guys viewing this? Must be excited about the opportunity in front of you.
Yeah, it's kind of open in all directions to a large degree. We know the prospective rocks wrap around all the way over on those hills. We have all the ground over there. We have historic resources 3 kilometers that way at the Hooligan Prospect, and all the way along this trend to Keystone Jumbo is another 5 kilometers that direction. We have historic resources that I've got the number somewhere, but it's 100, 200,000 ounces in historic resources that we're looking to prove up. Right now we're focused on the main deposit, which is just what we're looking at right here. We're trying to expand that footprint and get more of that inferred resource, but we have kind of growth potential all over, and it, like you say, it is very exciting to have the ability to kind of put a drill really anywhere we want and have some confidence that we're going to find something.
Right, but we'll talk a bit more detail about this later, but you could have a 50,000 meter funded program ahead of you. You don't want to be scattergunning and drilling here, there, and everywhere. So can you talk a little bit about the kind of the program ahead of you for the next sort of 12, 18 months, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about 20 to 25,000 meters into that 50,000 meters thus far. Like I said, we're focused right now primarily on increasing the inferred resource. So that's in footprint size, but also plugging the gaps in the current resource that we know there's mineralization there. We just have to get the drill hole spacing right in order to prove that up.
So we're at 740,000 ounces at the moment, about 1.26 grams per ton. You've got is any of your 12,000 meters, it's how much of the 12,000 meter drilling so far is in that?
All of that so far has been focused within or near that 740,000 current resource. So we're kind of poking around the edges. We found the Zanzibar trend, which we're really excited about, is very proximal to that resource, but has never been drilled before. So we're getting some nice results out of that will feed right into that 740. We're really excited. We think we're going to get to at least a 2 million ounce resource by the end of this 50,000 meters. All of our results to date have supported that, and we have the confidence that we're going to get there and keep the grade at that high 1.2, maybe even a little better level. So
okay. Now, so let's maybe kind of switch it to the kind of geological setting, if you don't mind getting into a bit more detail for us. You talked about, obviously, the caldera, and what you're finding here, but as a geologist, what you are is what is your understanding geologically? Actually, I'll start with that.
Yeah. So we're kind of on the edge of the Walker Lane, so we've got a lot of those same kind of characteristics that you might see in those sort of deposits. We believe that we have a trans-tensional to maybe transpressional type of system. So we have some strike slip action going on. We're also clearly in Nevada, we have the basin and range influence as well. So it's a very complex structural setting. We've got different tectonic regimes in play that are all kind of coming together right here to make this a really good spot for gold mineralization.
Right.
But it's primarily the strike slip combined with those extensional features that are allowing for the epithermal gold mineralization.
But what's you look at the kind of geological, and you kind of look at the modeling element specifically. So when you're interpreting this on a structural basis, and what are the clues that you've got with the work that you've done so far? I don't know, in terms of geophysics or the geochem work that you've done, how do you vector in on where you need to be drilling?
It's been a challenge because we are sitting in a place that has seen a lot of compressional tectonics in the long distant past, and that's primarily the alteration we see is associated with those thrusting and orogenic type systems. We don't believe the gold is related to that at all. So the gold is much younger than that, more related to the age of the volcanics, with 15, 20 million years old. The alteration signature is not there for that type of thing, and so that specifically is kind of intriguing, a challenge, but also makes it exciting to kind of help us, figure that out. Why is it a kind of unusual epithermal deposit in that sense?
It's unusual. Is it unprecedented in Nevada, in the sense that are there any kind of comps that you look to and say, well, maybe some learnings to be had there?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any other deposits that kind of lack that geochemical signature. I don't know if maybe Lucas might be.
Yeah, we'll talk to Lucas in a minute. We're keen to speak to him about that. No,
it is interesting because we have looked at the geochem specifically and looking for those kind of pathfinder elements, and they're not really here in a very strong sense. Up the hill, there's the Whitecaps mine, which is very strong in those kind of pathfinder metals.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we don't see that same signature down the hill here. And so, we're hoping to figure that out and maybe find some sort of zonation that we can use as a vector to kind of follow us there, guide us in the right direction there.
Interesting. So, for you, obviously, you've got the 3 drills turning potential for more if you start finding what you think you can find. You've got 12,000, you got another 38,000 meters to drill. When's that kind of finish?
Yeah, so we're fully funded for the 50,000 meters. We've probably got about 25 to 30 of those 1,000 meters left to go.
Right.
So we're expecting that to take us to the end of the year, and we'll kind of reassess at that point. But
with resource update at that point.
Yeah, we're looking to do a resource update near the end of the year, maybe Q1 of 27.
Right.
And that's when we're hoping to hit that 2 million ounce mark there.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've moved a little bit further up the mountain now to survey all that we can see, but because we talked about some visual clues that you utilize and even you as well. Behind us, you've talked about some historic workings there. I mean, what did that tell you?
Yeah, so about 5 kilometers along strike of the main ore body that we know about is the Keystone Jumbo target. And that's a historic workings that was very high grade, mostly averaging about 12 grams per ton. And we have a historic resource between the Keystone and the Jumbo pits of about 150,000 ounces at those elevated grades. So that's a primary target, a satellite target for us that we know is on trend. We know it's well mineralized, and it's going to be, one of the first places we're going to step out when we do move away from the main resource area.
So I think that's pretty darn interesting, quite frankly. It'd be remiss of you not to, follow up with that in a way. In terms of the drill allocation, though, for this year, when are you getting after that?
We're hoping to get there within the next month or two. Okay. Right now we have 3 drills spinning just on the main resource area. We're looking to probably dedicate at least one of those drills to these kind of satellite targets, whether it's Keystone, Hooligan, Black Mammoth. We have a handful of these high priority targets that we're looking to allocate one of those rigs to kind of move around and test these other areas, prove up the historic resources that we already have.
Okay. And Lucas, we were talking about maybe some of the visual clues that you've been looking at, and there's some of it all around us, and it seems to be trending that direction.
Yeah, so like what we see mostly, that's what in structural geology, that's what you do. You collect as much structural data as you can, differentiate between faults and veins. And when you map it on surface and you start seeing that general trend, we mostly have this northwest, southeast trending faults, which we started calling, our structural corridor, where we have most of the hydrothermal activity going on. And off of those, we have these sort of north-south trending faults and that kind of splay off of that main northwest southeast zone. So you can, on plan view, you can almost piece them all together. Black Mammoth, the pits, and all the way to Keystone Jumbo, all trending in that same orientation.
And there's sort of no limitations. You've got the money to get after this in drilling terms. Is there any other sort of activity that you're kind of working on at the moment, which kind of adds to that, like the collective data set that you're chasing?
Yeah, so, one of the geos here is a good geochemist. He's doing a lot of the geochemistry for us, and we're using a lot of the geochemistry to map out stratigraphy and lithology. We have a lot of, carbonate lithology, so carbonate-rich marbles, limestones, and then we have mudstones, siltstones, and, we're using a lot of adding a geochemical footprint to these units so we can map them stratigraphically, especially also with the drilling, trying to put all of that in 3D and have that footprint that we can use.
Okay, and dumb that down for me. What does that mean as an investor?
So that means that, each rock has its own chemical gene, and we can see that from analyzing for multi-elements for each rock type. And once we put that along, a drill hole, we can see where certain elements are there and are not there. So we're able to pick out zones where we say mudstones have this chemical footprint, limestones have this, marbles have this. So we're able to see that as we drill and also as we map or whatever we sample.
And it's basically just And that's basically just helping us understand the whole district better. When we can understand how the rocks are in place, how they're folded, how they're cut and chopped by the different faults in the area, we can reconstruct the history of the rocks in this area, and that will lead us to potential exploration targets that are maybe on those offshoot side structures that Lucas was mentioning, but just overall better understanding of the entire district, and that's going to, obviously lead to better results on the exploration side.
Finding more gold.
Finding more gold, that's what it's all about. Yeah, that's right.
So that's another reason too why try and understand this is because gold deposits or any sort of metal deposit around the world is the interplay between many things. And we want to understand what is the role of each. The lithology, which also has the geochemistry and the structure. And they all come together to form that.
Yeah, it's like baking a cake. You need all the ingredients together. And so knowing where this ingredient comes in and that ingredient comes in, where they connect, that's where the gold's going to be.
So where are we now? We're sort of just above the main pit. Yeah. Okay. And before we kind of get over there and sort of take a look at maybe some of the different systems that we're seeing there and types of rocks, we're saying we've got some breccia type rock here, haven't we? So what are we looking at? What is this telling us?
Yeah. So this is some of the high grade ore that was pulled out of the west pit here, and what we're seeing here is this. These really nice breccia textures that are filled in with the quartz and carbonate veins. We're seeing the really good bladed calcites, other crystal habits on this side. These are all indicative that we're near the boiling zone of these fluids when you get these textures. And what that means is you're at the right depth and temperature conditions to create these textures, but also where the gold likes to be as well.
So that's what we've been talking about all morning. So what we saw, up on top of the mountain, all the way back down, we've been pointing some real kind of coloured markers for you, aren't they? It's just quite easy, really, isn't it?
Makes sense.
Makes sense. So this is important to you, and obviously that's what's coming out of the pit. But there's a lot of other things going on in there as well.
For sure.
So what are we going to see when we get down there?
So we're going to see some good exposure of the big controlling structures.
Yeah.
And this is the evidence of that is we have these breccias. The rocks have been grinding against each other, creating that void space that then allows these fluids to come up and deposit not only the quartz and carbonate, but the gold as well.
Right.
And we'll see those exposed quite well once we get down in the pit.
We like the gold. Let's go find the gold.
Let's do it.
One of the things that investors always want to see is scale of the opportunity in front of us. And here we are, Lucas, in front of the old pit, which obviously has seen better days. But what it does do, it informs us of what they were chasing.
Yeah.
And I guess more importantly, it shows us what you're chasing, because you can actually start to you can visually see this continuity here.
You can actually stand here at this side of the pit, and you can see the structures all over the pit walls. But most of all, you can see how the trend traces up all the way to the top of Black Mammoth, and we can see the workings going up the hill. And at the top of the hill, there's a change in coloration, which is mostly that breccia and veining that we've seen when we were up there. So, with our current drilling, we're trying to join up these two zones.
Yeah.
And we know that from, drilling over here, there is gold all over, and my mapping on surface, plus just standing here, you can...
Yeah, it's obvious.
Yeah, you can wave your arm and, there it is.
So as Teddy said, you're trying to join up the gap between these two.
Exactly.
And then also sort of carry on trend.
Exactly.
As well. So that's a lot of drilling to be done.
Yeah.
A lot of gold to be found.
Yes.
But this is where the idea came from?
Yes, this is where the idea came from. And you can see the faults, like mapping the faults and getting their actual structural trend. You can line them up and they all line up, going up in that northwest, southeast sort of corridor that we call. And you said it right. We have this zone which we actually call the gap zone, which is that gap between the Gold Wedge mine and Black Mammoth.
Right.
And that's where
The thesis is, that gap will hopefully contain what you're seeing here and what you've already found.
And we're already seeing it.
Yeah.
We're already seeing it in the drilling.
Well, maybe let's get down a little bit further into the pit, and we can start to maybe you can point out some of the other structures that have given you the kind of clues that we're chasing.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's do that.
So here we are in the pit area, historic workings. The great thing, as I've just talked about with Lucas, is it actually is opened up visually a lot of the kind of what's happening with the kind of the faulting, what ores we're sort of chasing, and you're going to maybe tell us a little bit about what clues we are looking at just behind us.
Yeah.
To the untrained eye, doesn't look like much, but for you, what's it tell you?
Yeah. So what we see for us is the very strong straight line across on the other side of the pit. That is the Nelly Gray Fault. And we know from the historic drilling in this pit and around it that all of the gold is concentrated onto the hanging wall side, which is the right side from this viewpoint.
Okay.
And what that is telling us is that what we're really getting is a kind of a classic epithermal style mineralization pattern, where the fault is acting as a kind of a plumbing system for those fluids coming up from depth. And as it gets closer to surface, it's allowed to find those fractures and weak points and go up vertically into the hanging wall side of that fault. And that's where all the grade was that they were mined out of this pit.
Right. But this, again, doesn't look like a big pit. We've kind of stopped here. Is that where the gold stopped?
No, actually, we know from all the drilling in the area that the gold actually continues in both directions. Right on the top above us here in the high wall, there's actually a fence which marks the old property boundary.
All right.
And that was the reason the pit stopped where it did, is not because there's no more gold, but because they just didn't own the land on the other side, which now we've all brought together. It all belongs to Scorpio, so we're able to continue that.
So you can move along strike both ways.
That's right.
This is what, a couple hundred meters? Something
About
like
200
that?
meters deep.
Yeah.
At this point, we know it goes further down at depth. We know it continues along strike. We know it continues along strike that way. It's pretty much open in this location.
Right. But for now, the drilling's going to be focused on sort of shallower, sort of down to what sort of level are we talking about?
Right now, we're focused about 200 meters. Our current resource goes to about 200 meters depth below the current surface. We're pretty confident that continues down. But right now we're focused on just firming up our confidence in that near surface mineralization.
Okay, and one thing we talked about on the drive on the way up here, but we haven't perhaps talked about it on film, which is around the met work, historic and whatever else that you're thinking with the improved metallurgical techniques.
Yeah, so in the past they used gravity circuits. They also did some leaching, but in both situations they were getting 60 to 70% recovery. What we know is from several met tests, I think we have 7 different met tests that have been done with both some gravity and leaching components, we can get up to 92, 93%. All of those tests agree about that number. So we're pretty confident that that will continue. We're in the process of gathering more of that data to do our own met testing, update all those numbers, and really get a better handle on what the flow sheet's going to look like.
Okay, and talk to me about, obviously a lot of ores come out of this pit. It's gone off to be processed, and there's got to be a bunch of tailings around here for sure, right?
Yeah, we have not only a tailings pile, but also a remaining low-grade stockpile, which from these days, they were mining 3 gram average. Their low grade would still be, pretty good grade for us. So we have in those piles, we know that they were getting 60, 70% recovery on 3 gram material. There's likely to be, maybe a half gram to a gram left in those piles that, are already pulled out of the ground We just need to process that stuff, and it's kind of an easy win.
How's the team working on that? Because you obviously, there's a little forward-looking statement there, but there's some work to be done and say, well, there could be some real value on that.
Yeah. So Harrison Pokran, our VP of Exploration, is kind of leading that work. So he's working with some metallurgists at Forte Dynamics to kind of figure out the metallurgy, number one, but also we're looking to how we can drill those pads, those piles, to really quantify the amount of gold, the grade. We know the tonnage. What's the grade? That's kind of the main question. And how do we quantify that is really the next question.
Well, that's a real added bonus when he comes back with that. We'll hear more about that in the rest of this year, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. It's upcoming work for sure, but we're right in the thick of getting that going.
So, Teddy, we're a little bit further away from the kind of main area that you're looking at. There's one of the satellites that you mentioned earlier. We've got some historic data. Maybe talk about that and why you're excited to maybe do a little bit of work up here.
Yeah, for sure. We're here at the Keystone Pit. This is a small open pit operation from the 80s and 90s. They were mining here rocks in excess of an ounce per ton. And we do have a historic resource in place based off historical data that is about 100,000 ounces at 12 grams per ton. So we're pretty excited to follow up and try to find some of those high grades.
Well, it's definitely a good start. And I guess, again, so as per the main pit, it exposes everything. You get a sense of what's going on here. Maybe talk to some of what you're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So we are about 5 kilometers from the main resource area. But if you look across the way, you can see where the gray goes to the lighter colored rocks. That is the structure that's exactly on strike with the main trend of the main deposit area. So it might not be the same structure, but it's definitely in the same orientation.
Yeah,
it's right on strike. There's probably some offsets here and there, but overall it's the same system. And it is not, like I said, 5 kilometers away that we're seeing the same thing.
Okay, so what's the plan here? Because obviously a lot of gold came out of here. It was high grade gold. Would you be expecting to sort of see this or carry on up this direction? Because I can't help but notice you've kind of marked it sort of for a pad around here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of our high priority targets when we do move out from the main resource area. This is probably one of the first places we're going to go as far as those satellite targets. We're right on actually where we're going to be drilling from.
Okay.
And we're going to follow that structure off to the southeast and look for it down under this way, where we do have historic data that suggests this trend continues off to the southeast. So that's what we're chasing.
And again, are we going at depth, or is it we're sticking relatively shallow like
the rest? These will be right here the gold is at surface, and we're going to be drilling. These holes are 150 meter holes, and we'll probably hit it from both sides.
Okay.
But yeah, very near surface, maybe 100 meters of true depth.
Okay, so there's some potential. And when is that starting?
We're looking to be out here June, July.
Okay,
so
real soon.
Real soon, yep. We've
Okay.
already got our stakes up, and we're ready to go.
And any sense of how many meters we're talking about?
We're going to start with a smaller program just to true up what we think we know.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of reassess and go from there, based on results and what we learn from the geological information we get out of those drill holes.
Nice, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So hi guys, we're continuing our tour of the Scorpio gold mine and surrounding areas. We're here at, is this hole number 96?
Yeah.
Right, and this is one of the drills that we got going. As they kindly, taking a lunch break by the sounds of things. So we're going to be able to hear Teddy talk about it. So what are you chasing here?
So yeah, this is the Black Mammoth target. You can see the namesake rocks at the top of the ridge there. We are about 300 meters stepped out from our current resource. This is the 8th hole we've drilled at this target. No historic drilling in the area to speak of. We've seen some quite good results. we chased this target primarily based off of the historic workings that we've seen in the area, but also the mapping work that we've done pointed to this being a highly prospective area. Like I said, we've drilled. This is our 8th hole. We've released results for 4 or 5 of those. Seeing some very good grades, lots of good continuity between those intercepts as well.
Right.
So we're quite excited about this and how it can potentially connect to our existing resource 200 to 300 meters away.
Right.
And, that's a lot of open ground that if the grades hold across, it's a lot of ounces we're looking to add here.
And so it continues to extend. You talked earlier about, following the sort of trend up here. What's the extent of the work here? I mean, how much further along trend will you go?
We're kind of starting at this spot that we've been successful, and we're going to work our way both directions along strike. There's a large fault that runs through this area that's dividing the Manhattan caldera to the north from our sediments to the south, and it's right along that margin is where we're seeing the best results.
Okay.
And so we're going to chase that structure kind of in both directions.
Okay.
To
They're closing up the gap one end and extending at the other.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And we've seen no indication that it doesn't continue both along strike in both directions and up and down that structure. So it's a really exciting target, and we're pumped. We're going to be drilling here probably all summer to just keep chasing this.
Well, look, we're going to jump down to the quartz shack now and take a look at what you've been pulling out of the ground here.
Absolutely, let's do it.
So guys, we finally reached the core shack, having sort of been around the property, and I thought we'd take a chance to try and get an expert's view as to what exactly we're looking at and where it's come from and what it tells you about what you do next.
Yeah, so this is hole 97 that's currently drilling, and we're logging it right now as we speak. This just came out of the ground last night. So this is from the Zanzibar trend, one of the target locations we've been drilling quite heavily the last couple of months. Had a lot of really positive results out of this location. It's all outside the current resource and additive that's going to help us get to that 2 million ounce target. This right here is the Zanzibar limestone, which is what the Zanzibar trend is named for. We see it's clearly heavily veined. It's been seeing a lot of structure going on here. These rocks have been moved around, jostled around, which allows the fluids then to find some void space to find their way through and then deposit some gold in here. And you can definitely see evidence of the fluids here. We've got a lot of sulfides running around in this section here. Yeah, all up and down in here. And, so that's pretty strong evidence for us that we're in the right neighborhood for not only the structure that we're looking for, but the fluid has gone through that structure as well.
Right, so that's a mangled appearance is good news.
It's good news, yeah.
Right, okay. Now, if we kind of move further up the core shack, you've got a lot of different looking core going on. So maybe you can identify some of the good stuff, which kind of gives you, again, clues as to where you put the drill bit next.
Yeah, so again, we're still in the same Zanzibar limestone, but again, we're seeing more evidence of structural deformation in this area that's moving these rocks around. They're cracking open. We get some epithermal veining here. We're in the right place, that the rocks have been prepared for that fluid to then come in later and deposit the gold. So all of this is going to be highly prospective. Like I said, just came out of the ground last night, so we'll get results back in a couple weeks.
Right.
We'll see what that actually holds, but definitely, based on our past drilling over the last couple of months, this is about 50 meters north of where we've been on the Zanzibar trend. We've seen all of that be mineralized quite well, and we're just stepping our way back to the west along that trend to fill in towards Gold Wedge, which will then connect it all into the resource.
Right. And Lucas, you must be looking forward to hearing back from the assays, but also from your team's interpretation of this to validate your work.
Yeah.
So is there anything here that you see that you like?
Yeah, for sure. You know, like say if we just look at these two boxes, you have two sort of bridges, which is what I see. You've got these gougy fault bridges, which is kind of powdered rock cementing clasts. So that indicates, you know, a brittle fault.
Right.
With a potential mineralization, but in between you start seeing hydrothermal activity there. There's another big one up here. You know, these are all the zones that, you know, with these epithermal textures. So these are all kind of the zones that we are chasing and believe they all carry gold, and we know that from our current drilling.
And you're pointing at some of that at surface.
Yeah, at surface on Black Mammoth, you see these all over the mountain. You can see them everywhere, yeah.
Amazing. And if we kind of carry on up here, there's a lot going on, and I haven't really had time to kind of look at it, but with your expert eye, is this what you would have expected from the drill bits?
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what we've seen. It's right in line with what we've drilled in the past few drill holes in this area. So far, it's fitting our interpretation and our model very well. And so I'm pretty excited to see how this continues to grow and I, again, connect back to the existing resource and adding to that.
So What are we looking at here?
So this is hole 95, which is being drilled right above the gold wedge underground.
Yep.
We're targeting the contact between the Zanzibar limestone and the Manhattan caldera, which we know has been faulted, displaced. Whenever we do those faulting and displacements, we create some void space, makes a good host for the gold fluid to come in later. So this hole is right now, we can see we're at the contact of the limestone, and as we move over this way, we're now into the volcanics. So this whole brecciated contact zone is highly prospective based on all of our other drilling in the area. You can see there's some good veining in this chunk. This is all pretty well silicified. Definitely evidence that a lot of fluid has come through here, and likely the right fluid for us. And
so explain the because obviously historically they kind of drilled the complete opposite direction from underground. You've gone back the other way. You're trying to establish where the contact is, and when you kind of hit that contact, you wouldn't expect to find gold, presumably.
Yeah, we're pretty confident that once you get into these volcanics, at least in this location, this is going to be barren of gold.
Right.
But right on this contact is going to be the hot spot. Right?
Beautiful.
And
the grades that you've been seeing today, remind me, what do they look like?
Yeah, we've gotten well over 70 grams per ton in these kind of locations. It's not uncommon to get 10, 20, 30, 40 grams per ton. Right. Over, smaller intercepts that are within larger intercepts, 10, 20 meters, we've actually got 40 meters of 3 grams per ton in a nearby location, hole 44.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's been, there's small, very high grade bits, and then more continuous grade right around our average grade gram per, or 1 or 2 grams per ton. That's pretty common.
And I mean, for you, obviously, you're trying to. You've talked about how you interpret all these kind of complex structures and faultings. This is what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Nothing surprises you here.
No, like in one of the biggest controls in structure for ore deposits is the contrast between weaker rocks and more competent rocks, and that's what we're seeing here. We have the less competent volcanics which don't fracture, but we have these faults that are exposing that contact, right, and in turn fractures the Zanzibar.
And what's happening at these contact points?
These, there's either we're seeing transpressional and as well as some normal slip along these faults, right, and that when there's something that's rheologically more competent is going to tend to fracture more than something that's, say, softer, which would just plastically move.
Yeah.
And what we want is those fractures to bring the fluid in.
Bringing fluid in, so that is bring more gold in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we like what we see
fractures
here.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want open spaces, and also open spaces bring fluid in and it can precipitate.
It gets trapped there.
Gets trapped.
And this guy finds it.
Yeah.
Right. That's how it works, right?
He can put it together for us.
It's actually quite easy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we've just concluded our tour of Scorpio Gold. Spent the day with Teddy and Lucas, who've been kind enough to kind of show us around and point out, in some cases, the obvious. I think what I've been impressed by is the scale of the opportunity. It hadn't kind of come across in the marketing material that I was reading, and sometimes you're sort of slightly disbelieving of it. But here it's kind of obvious, even to the untrained eye, what's going on. Nevada typically has sort of 0.6 grams per ton type operations. That's what I'm used to seeing, and certainly all the big names around here operate. These guys have got a higher grade than that, so that's nice, but you need to show the scale. So what have I seen today? One, expressions at surface of gold. We just came down from Keystone up here. There's about a sort of 5K from an open pit up there down to kind of the center of the operations there, where you've got the super high grade historic open pit. It's 12 gram per ton, around 100,000 ounce kind of type of resource. But they're going to get after it with a drill in the next few weeks, which will be interesting to start to see what goes on. Now that's non-core in the sense that it's a satellite operation. But again, everything, expressions at surface, it's following this kind of general trend down towards the kind of main operations here, Black Mammoth, where, in fact, where I'm standing, I can see actually all three drills. Just first drill is just near the site, because the second one we saw just behind the kind of core shed. Another one down the bottom of the Black Mammoth Mountain, which we went up to earlier in the day. I'm sort of quite taken by it in the sense that it kind of feels like easy exploration, easy mining at some point as well. It's shallow. That's always nice. Keeps the cost down. A lot of open pit work and adits already here, which kind of open up and express what the miners saw in the old days. And the guys have taken a lot of that data, and now they're getting after and creating their own data, and merging these data sets together to kind of give a big kind of model as to how they get after this, and what it is that they're going to be able to create. And I think what they're going to be able to show relatively quickly is the size and the scale of this opportunity, and that's what most investors look for. How big can this thing get? We've talked about metallurgy, relatively simple, sort of recent work showing sort of plus 90% up to 93% recoveries. That's nice. 1.26 average at the moment with the current resource. They're going to be obviously drilling the heck out of this thing. 50,000 meters later, we'll see what that comes to. I would think somewhere around the kind of 2 million ounce level. That takes it into a very different stratosphere. And then, when you look at, the simplicity of what they're trying to do, and therefore the kind of reduced sort of cost structures involved with that as well, it's actually pretty darned attractive. Something which we've only kind of recently come across, but it's definitely one, for me, we're keeping our eye on it. They've had a really good start. We're going to talk to some of the other members of the team who weren't around for this field site visit in the next coming days, and we'll put together a little package which you can talk to some of the market-facing guys, some of the finance-facing guys as well. But technically, this thing stacks up. Hope you enjoy it.